Behind every system of actions or a system of belief, the system of a democracy is founded on belief like freedom, majority rule, social equality. The system of a dictatorship has a very different set of disbelief like absolute authority and strict obedience. You can imagine many ways to try to get more people to vote in a democracy, but such a behavior change would never get off the ground in a dictatorship. That's not the identity of a system. So voting is a behavior that is impossible under a certain set of belief. A similar pattern exists whether we are discussing individual organizations or societies. They are a set of beliefs and assumptions that shape the system and identity behind the habit. Behavior that is incongruent with the self will not last. You may want more money, but if your identity is someone who consumes rather than create, then you will continue to be pulled towards spending rather than earning. You may want better health, but if you continue to prioritize comfort over accomplishment, you will be drawn to relaxing rather than training. It's hard to change your habit if you are never changed the underlying belief that lead to your past behavior. You have new goals and new plans, but you haven't changed you who you are. The story of Brian Clark, an entrepreneur from Boulder, Colorado, provides a good example. For as long as I can remember, I've chewed my fingernails. Clark told me it started as a nervous habit when I was young and then morphed into an undesirable grooming ritual. One day I resolved to stop chewing my nails until they grew out a bit. Throughout mindful willpower alone, I managed to do it. Then Clark did something surprising. I asked my wife to schedule my first ever manicure. He said my thought was that if I started paying to maintain my nails, I wouldn't chew them. And it worked, but not for the monetary reason. What happened was the manicure made my finger look really nice for the first time. The manicure even said that other than the chewing, I had really healthy, attractive nails. Suddenly, I was proud of my fingernails. And even though that's something I had never aspired to, it made all the difference. I've never chewed my nails since, not even a single close call. And it's because I now take pride in properly caring for them. The ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. It's one thing to say, I'm the type of person who wants this. It's something very different to say, I'm the type of a person who is this. The more pride you have in a particular aspect of your identity, the more motivated you will be to maintain the habit associated with it. If you are proud of how your hair looks, you will develop all sort of habit to care for and maintain it. If you if you are proud of the size of your bicep, you will make sure you'll never skip an upper body workout. If you are proud of a scarf you knit, you will be more likely to spend hours knitting each week. Once your pride gets involved, Once your pride gets involved, you will fight tooth and nail to maintain your habit. Two behavior change is identity change. You might start a habit because of motivation, but the only reason you will stick with one is that it becomes part of your identity. Anyone can convince themselves to visit the gym or eat healthy ones or toys, but if you don't shift the belief behind the behavior, then it is hard to stick. with long term change. Improvement are only temporary until they become part of who you are. The goal is not to read a book, the goal is to become a reader. The goal is not to run a marathon, the goal is to become a runner. The goal is not to learn an instrument, the goal is to become a musician. Your behavior are usually a reflection of your identity. What you do in an indication of the type of person you believe that you are, either consciously or non-consciously. Research has shown that once a person believes in a particular aspect of their identity, they are more likely to act in alignment with that belief. For example, people who identify as being a voter were more likely to vote than those who simply claim voting was an action they wanted to perform. Similarly, the person who incorporate exercise into their identity doesn't have to convince themselves to train. Doing the right things is easy. After all, when your behaviors and your identity are fully aligned, you are no longer pursuing behavior change. You are simply acting like the type of person you already believe yourself to be. Like all aspect of habit formation, this too is a double-edged sword. When working for you, identity change can be powerful force for self-improvement. When working against you through identity change can be a curse. Once you have adopted an identity, it can be easy to let your allegiance to impact your ability to change. Many people walk through life in a cognitive slumber, blindly following the norms attached to their identity. I'm a terrible with direction. I'm not a morning person. I'm bad at remembering people names. I'm always late. I'm not good with technology. I'm horrible at math, and those other variations. When you have repeated a story to yourself for years, it is easy to slide into these mental groups and accept them as a fact. In time, you begin to resist certain action because that's not who I am. There is internal pressure to maintain your self image and behave in a way that is consistent with your belief. You find whatever way you can to avoid contradicting yourself. The more deeply a thought can act or action is tied to your identity, the more difficulty it is to change it. It can feel comfortable to believe what your culture, belief, group identity, or to do what upholds your self image, personality, identity, even if it is wrong. The biggest barrier to positive change at any level, individual, team, society, it's identity conflict. Good habits can make rational sense, but if they conflict with your identity, you will fail to put them into action. On any given day, you may struggle with your habit because you are too busy or too tired or too overwhelmed or hundreds of other reasons over the long run. However, the real reason you fail to stick with habit is that your self-image gets in the way. This is why you can get too attached to any version of your identity. Progress requires unlearning, becoming the best version of yourself requires you to continuously edit your beliefs and to upgrade and expand your identity. This brings us to important question. If your beliefs and worldview play such an important role in your behavior, where do they come from in the first place? How exactly is your identity formed, and how can you emphasize new aspect of your identity that serve you gradually erase the peace that hinder you? The two-step process to change your identity. Your identity emerges out of your habit. You are not born with present belief. Every belief, including those about yourself, is learned and conditional through experience. More precisely, your habits are how you embody your identity. When you make your bed each day, you embody the identity of an organized person. When you write each day, you embody the identity of a creative person. When you train each day, you embody the identity of an athletic person. The more you repeat a behavior, the more you reinforce the identity associated with that behavior. In fact, the word identity was originally derived from the Latin word essential, which means being an identidum, which means repeatedly your identity is literally your repeated beingness. Whatever your identity is right now, you only believe it because you have proof of it. If you go to church every Sunday for 20 years, you have evidence that you are religious. If you study biology for 1 hour every night, you have evidence that you are studious. If you go to the gym even when it's snowing, you have evidence that you are committed to the fitness. The more evidence you have for a belief, the more strongly you will believe it. The most of my early life, I didn't consider myself a writer. If you were to ask any of my high school teachers or college professors, they would tell you I was an average writer at best, certainly not a standout. When I began my writing career, I published a new article every Monday and Thursday for the first few years as the evidence grew. So, did my identity as a writer? I didn't start out as a writer. I became one through my habit. Of course, your habits are not the only actions that influence your identity, but by virtue of their frequency, they are usually the most important ones. Each experience in life modify your self-image, but it's unlikely you would consider yourself a soccer player because you kick a ball once, or an artist because you scrimp a picture. As you repeat these actions, however, the evidence accumulates and your self image begins to change. The effect one of experience tends to fade away, while the effect of habits get reinforced with time, which means your habits contribute most of the evidence that shape your identity. In this way, the process of building habits is actually the process of becoming yourself. This is gradually evolution. We do not change by snapping our fingers and deciding to be someone entirely new. We change bit by bit, day by day, habit by habit. We are continually undergoing macro evolution of the self. Each habit is like a suggestion. Hey, maybe this is who I am. If you finish a book, then perhaps you are the type of person who likes reading. If you go to the gym, then perhaps you are the type of a person who likes exercise. If you practice playing the guitar, perhaps you are the type of a person who likes music. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. No single instance will transform your belief, but as the votes build up, so does the evidence of your new identity. This is one reason why meaningful change does not require radical change. Small habits can make a meaningful difference by providing evidence of a new identity. And if a change is meaningful, it's actually is big. That's the paradox of making a small improvement. Putting this all together, you can see that habits are the part to changing your identity. The most practical way to change who you who you are is to change what you do. Each time you write a page, you are a writer. Each time you practice the violin, you are a musician. Each time you start a workout, you are the athlete. Each time you encourage your employees, you are a leader. Each habit not only gets results but also teach you something far more important: to trust yourself. You start to believe you can actually accomplish these things. When the votes mount up and the evidence begins to change, the story you tell yourself begins to change as well. Of course, it works the opposite way too. Every time you choose to perform a bad habit, it's a vote for the identity. The good news is that you don't need to be perfect in any election. There are going to be votes for both sides. You don't need to anonymous vote to win an election. You just need a majority. It doesn't matter if you cast a few votes for a bad behavior or an unproductive habit. Your goal is simply to win the majority of the time. New identities require new evidence. If you keep casting the same votes, you're always cast you are going to get the same result you always had. Is nothing change? Nothing is going to change. It is simple two-step process. Point number one, decide the type of a person you want to be. Point number two, provides it to yourself with the small wins. First, decide who you want to be. This hold at any level as an individual, as a team, as a community, as a nation. What do you want to stand for? What are your principles and values? What do you wish to become? These are the questions, and many people aren't sure where to begin, but they do know what kind of results they want to get: six pack abs, or to feel less anxious, or to double their salary. That's fine. Start there and work backward from the result you want to the type of person who could get those results. Ask yourself, who is the type of person that could get the outcomes I want? Who is the type of person that could lose 40 pounds? Who is the type of a person that could learn a new language? Who is the type of person that could run a successful startup? For example, who is the type of a person who could write a book? It's probably someone who is consistent and reliable. Now your focus shifts from writing a book outcome based to being the type of a person who is consistent and reliable, identity based. This process can lead to belief like, I am kind of teacher who stand up for her student. I'm a kind of doctor who give each patient the time and empathy they need. I'm a kind of manager who advocates for her employees. Once you have a handle on the type of person you want to be, you can be taking small steps to reinforce your desired identity. I have a friend who lost over 100 pounds by asking herself, what would a healthy person do all day long? She would use this question as a guide. Would a healthy person walk or take a cab? Would a healthy person order a burrito or a salad? She figured if she acted like a healthy person long enough, eventually she would become that person. She was right. The concept of identity based habit is our first introduction to another key theme in this book: feedback loop. Your habit shape your identity, and your identity shape your habit. It's two-way street. The formation of all habits is a feedback loop, a concept we will explore in depth in the next chapter, but it's important to let your values, principles, and identity drive the loop rather than your results. The focus should always be one becoming that type of person, not getting a particular outcome. The real reason habits matter. Identity change is the north star of habit change. The reminder of any book will provide you with a step-by-step instruction on how to build better habits in yourself, your family, and your team, your company, and anywhere else you wish. But the true question is, are you becoming the type of person you want to become? The first step is not what or how, but how. You need to know who you want to be. Otherwise, your quest for change is like a boat without rudder, and that's why we are starting here. You have the power to change your belief about yourself. Your identity is not set in stone. You have a choice in every moment. You can choose the identity you want to reinforce today with the habit you choose today, and this brings us to the deeper purpose of this book and the real reason habits matter. Building better habits isn't about littering your day with life hack. It's not about flossing one tooth each night or taking a cold shower each morning or wearing the same outfit each day. It's not about achieving external measures of success like earning more money, losing weight, or reducing stress. Habits can help you achieve all of these things, but fundamentally, they are not about having something, they are about becoming someone. Ultimately, your habits matter because they help you become the type of person you wish to be. They are the channel through which you develop your deepest belief about yourself. Quite literally, you become your habit. Chapter summary. There are three levels of change outcome change, process change, and identity change. The most effective way to change your habit is to focus not on what you want to achieve, but on who you wish to become. Your identity emerges out of your habit. Every action is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Becoming the best version of yourself requires you to continuously edit your belief and to upgrade and expand your identity. The real reason habit matter is not because they can get your better results, although they can do that, but because they can change your belief about yourself.